Rainbow Six Vegas, the game changer from where I've sit. Welcome to the Legendary Status series. And this is the first of many titles I will be talking about that were literal game changers from my point of view. And it is a must that I give Rainbow Six Vegas its flowers. Let me kind of go back in time. Being a gamer, a hardcore gamer, if I'm being frank with you, since I was a little boy back in the 80s, had every console. That started with the ColecoVision, had the Sega Master System after that, then had the original Nintendo Entertainment System, then got a Sega Genesis, then got a Super Nintendo, then got the Sony PlayStation, then got an N64, so on and so forth. It was just about, I've had just about every single console that there is known to man, with a couple of exceptions, such as the Sega Saturn. That was one that I did not get. Didn't really want the Sega Saturn, to be quite frank. However, the Sega Dreamcast was most certainly the better console, and one that's slept on quite a bit compared to everything else just because of its short lifespan. But be that as it may, I remember going from PS2 and having my PS2, as legendary as a system that is in its own right, and having the PS2 and going and wanting, I felt that it was time for a change. Had stretched out well over a half a decade with the PS2. I remember getting it back in 2001, and or it might have been even 2000, I recall, but it was in the same year that it came out, which I do believe was 2000. But I knew that I had the PS2, got all the juice out of it that I could in a course of 6-7 years, and it was just time for a change. And I wasn't into the original Xbox. I thought it was horrible, actually. I didn't think the controllers was comfortable. I didn't like the interface. There was nothing about it that was enticing to me. And I was coming from the original Sony PlayStation, which obviously is legendary in its own right. And so getting a PS2 was a no-brainer. It was, you're feeling comfortable. You're right at home. And so you get to that point though where you know it's time for an upgrade. So I was so impressed with the Xbox 360, unlike the original Xbox, to the point to where I remember playing at a GameStop, and it was Peter Jackson's King Kong was on display. And I remember I had gone through and beat that game on PS2. Really good game, by the way. For a movie tie-in, it's a really good game. And it was even better on Xbox 360. And I was like, man, this is really nice. This is really nice. I mean, obviously the graphical update was immediately noticeable. The controller felt so much better than the OG Xbox controller. At least to me, it did. Like I was just felt very at home as soon as that controller was in my hand. And the other thing that really stood out were the triggers, where it actually felt like you were holding a gun and getting ready to fire it. Like, and that was just so distinct for me, and something that I just remember being a standout. And so I decided to make the leap and sell my PS2, use the money towards an Xbox 360. And to be honest with you, I remember taking a chance on it because I had bought the Xbox 360 at a pawn shop. And so and I knew it was a risk, and so I was just kind of like, yeah, well, let's see what happens, because to be honest, at the time I couldn't afford a brand new one, and I couldn't find the ones at GameStop, or the ones at GameStop were like $100 more than the one that I found at this pawn shop. So I decided to take a chance at the pawn shop Xbox 360. I end up buying it there, and to kind of go ahead and address the elephant in the room, no, it didn't crap out on me, didn't have any issues. It was as if I bought a brand new console. That's how great that console turned out to be in the long run. I don't think I had an issue with it until maybe maybe a year and a half later when I got the infamous red ring of death. But I most certainly had got my money's worth on it up to that point. And so as I start my journey and I'm playing games on Xbox 360, playing some really good games, some fun games. As I mentioned, first and foremost, like I said, Peter Jackson's King Kong was really good. I remember playing Dead Rising. That was good. That was a fun game. Far Cry Predator was really cool. NBA 2K. I was such big sports junkie, so 2K had a lot of fun with that game. Condemned, that was right up my alley because I've always been like a survival horror type fan. Fear, the original Fear, also another good game. And all these games I played in a course of about a month and a half, just buying and mostly renting, from Blockbuster at the time when Blockbuster was a thing. And as it turns out, though, even though these games were really good, I'm still thinking like, man, there's something still missing. Like I felt like there's something that just is missing from when I'm buying this Xbox 360, and I'm just kind of like, these games are cool, they're fun, but it just doesn't feel like it was worth the jump overall. Until I saw a video on YouTube, and the first thing that came to my mind was, what is that? And that game that I'm referring to is none other than Rainbow Six Vegas. As soon as I saw gameplay footage of it on YouTube, I knew I was looking at something special. I knew I was looking at something extraordinary, something that was unprecedented. And sure enough, like I didn't even go rent it. I just went and bought it on my next check because I knew I was going to fall in love with it just based off what I was seeing. I was so blown away. And, I used the word unprecedented a minute ago. And what I mean by that is I had never seen a game that smoothly transitioned from first person to third person and back to first person, with implementing a cover system the way that Ubisoft had made the game to be navigated. And I mean, that's what really, really just blew me away. I was just like, oh my God. And sure enough, when I went and got the game, it was just one of those things that like I said, the needle moved. Like it was a game changer. It was an absolute game changer. And as soon as I remember playing it, I was like, this is why I upgraded. This is why I sold my PS2. This is why I wanted a next gen console. And I finally found that game. And I was just so blown away with it. So I just got to give the game its flowers. Like, listen, at the end of the day, as gamers, we're always going to be subjective because even a very well received game, a critically acclaimed game among the masses, you'll still have some gamers that don't like it, that think it's crap, that is not all that what it's cracked up to be. And vice versa. You can have a game that's poorly received where a lot of people think it's crap, but then you'll have some gamers will find things to like about that game that's not really well received. It's just that's why we're individuals. But I could say this beyond a shadow of a doubt, as I've now become an indie game developer this past year, that I have a newfound appreciation for any and every game because of the time that goes behind in programming and making them and designing them. And even if it's poorly received, well received, it's like for me now, being a game developer myself, I most certainly have a ton of respect for people who put their time, resources, and effort into making these games. even if it turns out to be a game that a lot of people don't like. And still, it still gets my respect, and it doesn't matter what people think, because you will always have, it's still a subjective industry at the end of the day. There is no be all end all. It's like you can have a game that's ultra successful, but there'll be people around that still don't like it. It's just not their cup of tea or whatever the case may be. And that's fine. But Rainbow Six Vegas, boy, boy, boy. Like, I will always be super fond of this game. Obviously, it was a successful game, obviously, because they made a sequel. And that'll be another story for another day. But the OG title, Rainbow Six Vegas, is so special to me. So many fond memories. You know, not just playing through the story, but the multiplayer, the terrorist hunts. Just remarkable stuff here, especially for the time. And it's still fun to this day. It just hit different back then, though. And I recently actually played all the way through it, beat it, played it on realistic this past year, as a matter of fact. And again, it still hits different, or it hit different back then than it does now. But what it certainly is, though, is legendary from where I sit. So that concludes this particular video. Like, I will certainly come with game number 2 as I continue this legendary status series. And it can be from multiple generations. Like I said, I go all the way back to, I'm an 80s kid. So I'll have legendary games from each generation, whether it's Nintendo, whether it's Sega, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Sony. Like, I will have legendary games to talk about, where ultimately this is just a series where I give gaming its flowers. So I appreciate y'all tuning in. If you would please leave a comment, like, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will most certainly look forward to hearing from you guys.